The meeting will now be called to order. We'll have a roll call of the members by the superintendent, reading of the school board prayer by myself, and a leading of the Pledge of Allegiance by Joshua Hebert, Vice President.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Lewis. Here. Mr. Meyer. Mrs. Barra. Here. Mrs. Boutin. Here. Mr. Hebert. Here. Mr. Washington. Here. Mrs. Hood.
Here.
Mrs. Arso. Mrs. Dugas. Here. Madam President, you have a quorum?
Yes, sir. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight as we seek to serve our district. Let your light shine through us in all we do. Guide our decisions with wisdom and compassion, always keeping the best interests of our students and staff at heart. Even in the hard things, Lord, help us to follow your ways with courage and faith. Grant us the confidence with ourselves to lead with integrity, knowing that you are guiding our steps. We give you all the praise and the glory for the blessings in our school and community. May our work always reflect your love and grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To agenda A, adoption of the agenda. I need a motion. Moved by Ms. Byers. Second by Mr. Hebert. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 3, consent agenda. A, minutes of June 4th, 2025 school board meeting. B, adoption of the consent agenda.
If everything is in order, I so move.
Second.
First by Ms. Dugas and second by Mr. Washington. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 4, reports and recognition. A, adopt a resolution of sympathy for Francis Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. Resolution reads as such. Whereas we, the members of Assumption Parish School Board, have learned of the untimely death of Ms. Frances Davis, an outstanding employee and citizen of Assumption Parish. And whereas by her devotion and loyalty, she had come to be recognized as a most valuable asset to the Assumption Parish family of public educators. And whereas Mrs. Davis served Assumption Parish School Board for 28 years. And whereas her life was a record of service and devotion to children, community, and family, her loss would be shared by all who cherish the education of the young, especially the young of Assumption Parish. Now therefore be it resolved that the Assumption Parish School Board deeply regrets the untimely loss of a true friend and servant to public education and offers her family our deepest sympathy in a time of grief. Be it further resolved that a copy of this expression of sympathy is presented to the family with our deepest condolences. Mrs. Francis' family, come forward, please. And Ms. Francis served as a cafeteria tech for 28 years in Assumption Parish.
I have something to say. You know what I'm about to say. I didn't know Miss Francis from the school system. I think Miss Francis was probably in the school system before I was born. But she was a friend of the family. Sweet little, smart little lady, y'all. But she had a good heart. And y'all did a great job taking care of her, Jazz and Missy Lane. So
I was sitting here looking out there, and I'm like, is that Jasmine? I couldn't.
Yes, sir.
Didn't quite place you, but I'm very sorry for your loss because you've had a lot of losses lately. You break my heart. I'm very sorry.
I don't know why that thing is.
Yeah.
5, policy and procedure. A, discuss policy requiring employees to submit reimbursement for cancellation of registration travel expenses prepaid by the district.
This item has been on the agenda before. We're getting close to finalizing a document that we can submit to the board for review and approval. So right now, I just want to make it known that if there's any information that needs to go on this particular item, please reach out to my office, myself, Ms. Brandy, so we can bring forward that document for the board to discuss and or possibly approve.
Thank you, sir.
B, name the official journal for the fiscal year 2025-2026. I need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Dugas,
Second.
second by Ms. Boutin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. C, authorize the superintendent to schedule a public hearing on July 16th, 2025 at 5:45 p.m. to receive public comment on the budget. I need a motion. Moved by Ms. Byers,
Second.
second by Mr. Abear. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. D, receive information on revisions to 2025-2026 Student Code of Conduct.
Good evening, all. Just wanted to take an opportunity to share with you the proposed updates for the 2025-2026 school year for your review, and then for a later discussion and vote at a later meeting. I'll go through these pretty quickly, and then if you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. So for the first proposal, the principals felt like a policy needed to be set in place for students that are suspected to be high and how to handle the situation. We do have a plan that the principals follow. However, it is not a part of policy. So we would like this to be in the actual code of conduct policy going forward. I did give each one of you one of these documents. It does have the code of conduct, student alcohol, drug use, and drug testing policy. And what we wanted to add to that was the procedure, which states the following: that the school nurse will check the student's vital signs. If the student's vitals are concerning, or if the student is unable to regulate themselves during the examination, then a suspected drug impairment form must be completed. This is the drug screening tool that you wish to use, which will pretty much determine whether the student's vitals are on a level, what actions may be necessary, what actions may be necessary, and then also what were the witnesses' responses to that as well. So once that form is completed, if the nurse, the principal, and then the witness also determines that the student is suspected of being under the influence and requires medical attention, then the parent or the guardian will then have to provide medical documentation confirming that the student has been evaluated and that the student is healthy and is ready to return to school, which basically would be that the parent would have to take the child to the emergency room. Usually when, in cases where we feel like it's a definite that the student is under the influence, we'll call the ambulance to bring the student to the medical, for medical review. So that's not anything unusual. We just want it in policy. Finally, this process, like I'm stating, is primarily a medical concern for the child's health, not necessarily for disciplinary consequences, but if we determine that there was some foul play that took place there, it may result in disciplinary consequences, and if there's repeated behavior as such as well. But the main reason for the policy is to make sure that the student's health is intact. So that was our first proposal.
I have a question on that one, if we don't
Yes,
move.
sir.
I think you just need to, maybe on item 1, you'd have to have a contingency if a nurse is not present on campus, if she, nurse may be out for the day or something, that the principal would make the determination to maybe call medical services if it's like obvious. If we're gonna make the policy that item one that puts everything on the nurse. So maybe
Yes,
we need
sir.
to add, like, in the absence of the nurse on campus, the principal will make the determination to get the child screened, I guess, or verify what they suspect, if it's obvious.
Yes, sir. I'll make sure to add that terminology in the
Yep.
proposal.
Just because item two has 3 parties in there, so, and item one only has 1. So you want to have a contingency for the first item, just in case that person's absent.
Okay. Any other questions on that proposal or comments? Okay. The second suggestion is for seizure of a toy, weapon, or anything that may possibly be a facsimile of a weapon. So we want, the principals would like an actual policy addressing toy confiscation. The wording in the code of conduct currently is upon the seizure by a teacher, principal, school security guard, or school administrator of any firearm, knife, or dangerous implement which could be used as a weapon or inflict injury. The principal or his or her designee shall be reported or required to report the confiscation to appropriate law enforcement officials. So what we want to do is to keep the same verbiage, but we want to add right after weapon or facsimile of a weapon, including but not limited to toy guns, water guns, gel blasters, fake knives, etc., and then or any controlled substance. And the reason being for stating that is if once it's confiscated, it's turned over to the SRO, and then at that point, if the parent was to request that item, it would have to go through the sheriff's department instead of going through the principal. So that is the request for that, or the suggestion for that particular proposal. Any questions?
The only question I had on that one is, I've been in charge of like a chain of custody document before for organizations where if we have something that mirrors the sheriff's office, like chain of custody, if we happen to, heaven forbid, confiscate a weapon, to make sure that whoever's hands it passed through, that we have it documented on our side, as well as the sheriff's office would document it. That was the only question I had about that too.
Okay, so that the, you would like something that, to state that whoever confiscated the weapon, so we would have the principal or the assistant principal then turn the weapon over to the SRO or the toy over to the SRO
right.
to like state the actual.
Yeah, like whoever found it, they turned it over to this person, whether it be the SRO or an assistant principal, they turned it over to, that way we have documentation on our side on chain of custody, who had it in their hands kind of thing, to mirror. And I would maybe get with the sheriff's office to see if they have a similar document, or if they could provide you with one that said, hey, look, if this happens, here's a document we need.
Dr. B, we have a school nurse at all our facilities.
Currently, yes, sir. We are hiring right now for someone for the Bayou Lewis area. So all of our campuses will have a school nurse. Also, I would like to say that it's the language is pretty consistent, principal or designee. When we start to identify, you don't want to kind of pin yourself down and say only a school nurse or only this person, so it's always the principal or the designee. And that might be throughout the document.
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. The next item would then be the school uniform item. Now, on the document that you have, I did add the original school uniforms for each one of the schools. When the code of conduct comes out, the middle schools will be eliminated from that list. It will just state the primary schools and the high school. The primary schools will continue to have the same uniform colors as they've been having. There will be no change there. The only change that would take place would be this recommended change for the high school if it is approved. Assumption High School is requesting that red school shirts are the standard for middle school students, red shirts only. So that'd be the 7th and 8th grade students on Assumption High's campus. And then that black and white would be the colors in black and white only for the 9th through 12th grade. That navy would be eliminated as it is not a school color. The second suggestion would be that all outerwear colors should be the same as the grade level colors. So the 7th and 8th grade would wear red shirts and red outerwear, and then 9th through 12th grade would wear white and black shirts and then white and black outerwear. And one of the main reasons for this request is just so that administrators and teachers will be able to clearly identify the middle school students from the 9th through 12th grade students. And as our biggest main concern was safety of the students, we wanted to make sure that we had a clear way to identify all the students on campus. And then we also, with the outerwear, wanted to make sure that all of our students were wearing school colors instead of different color sweatshirts. So in this particular case, it'll make it easier for all of the administrators and the staff to be able to tell the middle school students from high school students while they're on the campus.
So for the elementary schools, which it would be the primary schools that are now going to be K to 6, what about the hoods on the jackets? Because it says for middle and high schools only. So the hoods, no hoods are mandatory for elementary?
Hoods were not allowed for any grade level.
So no grade level, okay.
We,
Because it says, D says no hoods or sweatshirts, on sweatshirts or jackets are allowed for middle and high school students.
it was recommended for the 7th through 12th grade. Middle school is now, I know we're saying 6th graders are going back to the primaries, but it's not, but we did not communicate, or we did not have any conversations or any recommendations to our office from the principals or anyone else saying that the elementary schools could not.
Okay,
It's only recommended for 7th through 12th grade as of right now.
okay, I'm just clearing that up.
Yes.
So they can have hoods?
Yes, ma'am.
As long as they don't wear them in the building?
Yes, ma'am. They're following the same,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't, you phrased it that way, I couldn't understand you.
the elementary schools are following the same dress code policy that we have for our primaries. So the question is about hoodies. Can those elementary students, kindergarten through 6th grade, wear hoodies? The answer is yes. As long as they're not, you have to follow, not over their head, not in the building, things like that. We did not receive any recommendation for them not to wear it in this particular policy during this time. But 7th through 12th grade cannot.
No,
Yes, ma'am.
right.
I hate to go back. I was just thinking about that item on drug testing, and I appreciate what Mr. Abad said, but checking vitals, what would be the vitals that we would be checking? Checking vital signs.
Document that I give.
That would be your blood pressure, circulation and stuff like that, heart.
Yeah, I guess what I'm
rate,
getting at is
Yeah.
we want the principal doing that. Would y'all be wanting to do that?
Well, that's what I was saying. If the nurse was absent, the principal would contact EMS, contact
And just
somebody.
get another
to do it. Yeah,
nurse.
somebody
I got you.
certified.
I got
Yeah.
you. Yep.
Yeah,
And if that case
There's
is
a
that
nurse
severe, we
missing,
need to
we'd
bring
have
him to a
to
hospital.
contact the nurse.
Yeah.
I
If the
got you.
case is that severe, if we feel like if the child's in trouble, then if
Then they're
there's not
gonna
a
call-
nurse there, we need to
they're
transport
gonna-
the child
yeah.
Right.
We
to the
don't,
correct facility.
That makes
we don't want the
sense.
principals to be nurses
Also,
anymore.
I mean, everybody knows.
Just to make that.
Or the
make you
secretaries
guys
to be
aware of
nurses
that,
anymore, yeah.
For that policy, we're making it policy, or want to make it policy, but that's the steps that they take currently. We just want to make sure that we have it in place so parents would know ahead of time.
Gotcha.
If this was to occur, these are the steps that we're going to take to ensure your child's safety.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and definitely I want to say, our principals call, if there's any issues at all with any of our kids, they always call and say, hey, I have a kid that doesn't look good, what's going on, Mr. Badami, want to let you know. So they are on top of making sure that our kids are safe, even though they may not be the trained professional like a nurse, but they are very adamant in making sure that their kids are safe.
Okay. Any questions on the uniform request? Okay. The following request, or the final request and suggestion, is going to be based upon vape usage. Currently, these are our numbers for the year. So we had 34 referrals on tobacco or nicotine vapes, 34 referrals, and we had 30 students. So a few of those students were repeat offenders. I did not add the numbers for kids that either had THC in the vapes or it was CBD oil, as those kids automatically get recommended for expulsion to the alternative center. So for the next request would be a change in our policy as far as how we handle vape usage. Now, for our current policy, for the first offense, students may get a suspension and restorative practices. For the second offense would be a suspension, again, restorative practices. And then the third offense, the student is recommended for expulsion. Okay, in this particular instance, we would like to move to this recommendation for vape usage. First offense would be recommended expulsion, 45 days to the alternative center. Once you complete the 45 days and you return back to your home school, if you have a second offense, then you would be looking at a recommended expulsion, which would be for the remainder of the school year. And our reason for doing this is to do our best to try to eliminate the usage of vape products on the campus, which is also a main reason why we had to request the policy, the first policy that we discussed about suspected drug usage on the campus, by putting that policy in place. So this would kind of go hand in hand with that policy, that if you were caught with a nicotine vape on the campus, on your person, you would automatically be recommended for expulsion.
Have we started installing those vape detectors in the school system yet?
No, sir, we did not install the vape detectors at this time. If we want to revisit that, we definitely can, but they did set off a couple of, a good bit of times while we had them, so very frequently. So.
Okay, thank you.
And my last thought as far as code of conduct, I attended a session with Dr. Brumley, our state superintendent, this morning, and he is adamant about making sure that our kids are behaving in schools. He's very supportive of making sure that every kid is accountable. She's very supportive of making sure our teacher classrooms are safe. So parents, I know this may be a shift, but we definitely have to make sure that our schools, as well as our classrooms, are safe environments for learning, and they are conducive to learning. So I fully support and endorse this particular code of conduct. Also, we want to make sure that we uphold the code of conduct and implement this to the best of our abilities. So as principals and administrators, please make sure we follow this code of conduct and everybody's treated fairly. And from an equitable standpoint, make sure it's universal. So thank you, Mr. Love. I appreciate it. And also, I want to thank the team members, every principal, every assistant principal that attended these sessions and worked through this. So thank you as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
6, budget. A, approve quote for AHS archive scanning of student records to electronic files. I need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Abear, second by Mr. Lewis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. One opposed.
I know.
Do we do a roll call since we have one, or just one? Okay.
You get a discussion?
I just feel like all these contracts, and we're looking at some possible flow from the State Department of all of these cuts that may be coming, and I just think we have a lot of contracts on hand, and I just don't think we need to be adding new stuff at this point.
So will these documents be scanned on site, or have to go to the parent company office where that's located at?
So this company would
Come in.
box everything up and take it with them to scan.
Could you explain kind of like For a little quick review, right quick.
All the companies that do the archiving and scanning, they don't do them on site. They actually box them and take them with them. They scan them. We make sure that all the scans are good and readable, and then they actually destroy the paper copies because it's a spacing issue at this point.
Yeah.
That is why, and then we do have plans in place. There are accesses in J Campus in different ways. I think Ms. Rachel's already started with the early childhood, scanning it and uploading it a different way to where it can be done in-house, but it's just all the old files that we don't have the manpower to scan and upload into an electronic system at this point.
So they will be, the documents will be shredded on their sites, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We pay for scanning and disposal.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
B, approve contract with Attuned for 2025.
I think, sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah, no, but I think, you got it logged down, okay, thank you, Ms. Mrs. Thank you very much.
B, approve contract with Attuned for 2025-2026 school year. I need a motion.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Washington.
Could we get an explanation as to where Attune picks up, like where NIET lets off and where Attune picks up? What's the difference between the two?
So Attune works with our district on strategic planning. So you're looking at overall goals, target measures for the district. And then NIET is more on the instructional practice side. And they're working with our schools on building capacity as it relates to best practices, best instructional practices in the classroom, also the capacity of our leaders. So you're looking at anything from instructional leadership team meetings to SBLC meetings to PLCs, and also any type of leadership development, also helping our leaders with observations with the new evaluation tool that we have. So it's, NIT is more on the instructional side, where Attune is more on a macro level, focusing more on district initiatives and strategic planning.
And this is something we've had in place for what, 4 years now? How is it? Is it a grant? How is it paid? Is it from the GF? or-
Yeah, I'm excited to say that Attune is paid 100% through a grant. This particular contract, the funds for this contract will not come out of a general fund.
All right. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? C, renew intergovernmental agreement with Assumption Parish Police Jury for sales tax collections for 2025-2026 fiscal year. I need a motion. Moved by Ms. Barris,
Second.
second by Mr. Abear. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. D, renew intergovernmental agreement with Village of Napoleonville for sales tax collections for 2025-2026 fiscal year. I need a motion.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Ms. Boutin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. E, award bids for food, milk, paper goods, and cleaning supplies / chemicals for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. I need a motion.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Dugas, second by Mr. Abear. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. F, receive information on 2025-2026 fiscal year budget.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We have two parts of the budget presentation, the actual budget for information, and the second part, I will present the changes in the proposed salary schedules for your information. As part of the Local Budget Act, the law, Louisiana state law, there are several components of a budget, and one of them is a summary type of a budget message to the superintendent and the board. So there are highlights that I have noted here. First of all, our schedule or our layout for the budget is, of course, for presentation information. Tonight, you are receiving it. After that, we will begin advertisement for 2 weeks, the week of June 23rd and June 30th. Concurrently with that, we also make available the budget for the inspection to the public here. They can come anytime during working hours. All of those are components necessary to meet a legal and approved budget in the eyes of the legislative auditor. And we will finish that process on July 16th at 5:45 with a public hearing for comment before you all adopt the budget at the regularly scheduled meeting. In working with this year's budget, there are some highlights that I have already brought to your attention in the budget revision, but also it remains the same with this year's budget. The predicted increase in revenues are $231,000 compared to last year, and that mainly results from an increase in sales tax and a generous increase in interest earnings right now that our investment portfolio is earning on the market. But state MFP revenues continue to decline. We've lost almost 100 students compared to last year, which means a decline of approximately $850,000 in state permanent revenue. Some of the other highlights that I will go over with you, we have some continued maintenance expenditures, planned facilities and capital improvement, replacing sewer treatment plants, repairing schools, repainting schools, and also in the HVAC fund, which I will highlight. Mr. Dwayne has given us significant HVAC repairs and replacements, which will continue. And so I point out, as we've discussed in other meetings, a trend of declining enrollment. We are all aware of that. This is just a repeat. At the bottom, several of our rates that we pay for teachers' retirement system, the TRSL Plan B, both of those rates are on the decline now, and that is because the state has been paying off some of that debt of the unfunded accrued liability. So this is certainly helpful to our budget in that retirement rate that we pay to the state has gone down. Also for ELSERs, our school employees, in the school employees retirement system, that is a significant reduction this year, going from 25.8 to 22% that we pay. So those items are helpful in the expenditure column. So that is my budget message on a couple of the major highlights. So we can go straight into the budget now and looking at revenues. I'm proposing for this year a total revenue, estimated revenue of $40,158,000 as compared to last year, $39,926,000. That's an increase of $231,000. Some of the areas, there's some volatility there. First of all, it's hard to get a hold on what our sales tax collections will be. I think we left the legislature or the legislative session with not as many changes in sales tax collections in the laws that will affect us for this year. Still hot topics that will probably come back. The MFP is reducing, by that 850,000. One of the other in local revenues, which I have budgeted an increase, is our interest earnings. The market is bearing about between 3.5% and 4% of our investments, which a major instrument comes due every month or every other month, and they're renewed at the current market rate. So where we're lacking in revenue, sales taxes and our interest in the investment portfolio is carrying us right now. That's a volatile area which can change with the market. So I'm just making you aware of that as well. We're pleased with what we're getting there to make up some of the shortfall in our MFP dollars, but we monitor that closely. On the next page, we can take a look at where our revenues come from to make up total collections, or the area that the legislative auditor considers total collections, is all of our millages, which are locked in, we know what they are, plus the sales and use tax, which is an estimate of $8.2 million. Our collections are estimated to be $18,352,369. Our local sources of revenue are interest earnings of $1.3 million, 16 section land rentals of $5,474, rentals which comes from the work connection from a piece of Napoleonville Primary School at the rear of the property. Other local services are $32,000, miscellaneous revenues are $102,000, and Medicaid reimbursements, I take an average of what we've collected the last couple of prior years, and that is $283,411. This area is a piece that there's a certain volatility there now because we get reimbursements from the state. We use a firm that assists us with recouping or billing Medicaid to the state, and I think you all know how some of that works. Our nurses, our behavioral health psychologists, our speech therapists, and a couple of those areas of workers, they log their time with student contact and they submit that to the state. After that, it's monitored on an annual basis with a cost report, and we get reimbursed for that. We just went through a monitoring, and I got the results. The state will be lowering some of that reimbursement rate, and I think we may receive up to half of what I originally anticipated. Through the years, we were recouping as much as $350,000. And that initial cost report, which was passed by the monitors and now will go to the state, is about $150,000. So that's going to be almost cut in half. I don't know what we're looking at in the future, but Medicaid is getting cut. And then our state resources include $17.8 million in MFP funding. We have a very small EEF grant, which Mr. Naki uses for technology as part of his replacement cycle of computers, 52,000 computers and Chromebooks. AG Early Childhood funds 2 early childhood teachers, 2 paraprofessionals. That only pays for a portion of the cost, but nevertheless, that is the number for that state grant. LA4 pretty much covers its cost with $809,100 in revenue for early childhood teachers and paraprofessionals. We have a small state early childhood network grant of $9,800. We get non-public textbooks reimbursement, which goes to the non-public school of $3,540. And there's also a revenue sharing allocation of $18.9 million. And at the bottom, we estimate indirect costs that come from our federal programs back to the general fund for $725,850, and also operating transfers in from other grants that go back to the general fund for $410,000. So that's the makeup of our various funding sources, which come back to the general fund for $40,158,000. The second part of our budget is our expenditures. I want to bring, first point of critical attention I want to bring is you will notice that most areas compared to last year, I am estimating expenditures to be less than prior year. One of the reasons for that is in looking at salaries and benefits, in the past, we have budgeted probably generously and maybe overinflated a little bit our health insurance cost in estimating that each employee would carry the most expensive family plan. When I started looking at our roster, and there are many employees that don't carry insurance at all, or they carry an insurance that doesn't cost quite that much. So I think we were inflating a little bit in there, and I felt like we needed to make the budget more realistic. So throughout there, you will see the costs are less. A lot of it is because of health insurance. It's very expensive, as you all know, and we can under budget it, but we can also over budget it. So I'm working at getting those numbers a lot closer, and it's necessary as well. Our revenue stream has declined as well. But so in regular programs, I've estimated 12.9 million in expenditures, special education 3.7 million, career and tech ed 1.2 million, other instructional programs 748,000, adult ed 0, pupil support is 2.4 million, instructional staff is 723,000, general administration is 2.8 million, school admin is 3.3 million, business services 526,000, operation and maintenance services 4.7 million, student transportation 2.8 million, central services 1.2 million, food services 156,000, community services 30,000, facilities and construction capital expenditures 4.5 million, and then operating transfers out 1.1 million. We can go through some of the major highlights in each. The regular programs, the major cost in all of our programs are salaries and benefits, as you all know. We have that highlighted in our regular programs, which are our regular instructional programs, that is K through 6. We have budgeted some professional services of 190,000, purchase property services such as Bad Pass and American Telephone, 28,000. Other purchase services, which are telephone, postage, and site licensing, 37,000, and materials and supplies to the vendors listed, estimated 115,000. And technology items of 55,000, and textbooks for 97,000. And technology materials and supplies, which are Chromebooks, Josh's replacement cycle, and interactive whiteboards, also 262,000. Mostly in special ed, we have our salaries and benefits that you can look at. Very little in the other category. In career and tech ed on page 8, we have salaries for CTE teachers. This year, we added a couple of items in that we are attempting to bring back the CAE and the COE program for students, 15 in the spring and 15 in the fall, and they will be observed or supervised by site advisors. And you can also see the related benefits that go with that. Other instructional programs, that includes our coaching salaries and supplements. Also, the superintendent had asked for an allocation for not only the high school, but the 7th and the 8th grade, so that we would have startup monies for that. So I budgeted without having exact figures, that we could need up to $30,000 for athletics, $30,000 for new athletic uniforms, and $20,000 to start up for the band. So I just wanted to make sure that there was enough money in there to get that going. There hasn't been any fundraising yet. Some of the monies will be transferred from the primary schools after we figure out a student count, but the superintendent had asked for some startup there, which you all approved at the last meeting. So that is that item which we're looking at right now. Special programs is our early childhood. I'm budgeting $786,000 in that area for salaries, benefits, and some materials and supplies. Currently, we do not have an adult education program. That should read page 11. That's a typographical error. In pupil support, this is where we have our social workers, psychologists, nurses, speech therapists. The major part of that is salaries and benefits of $2.4 million. Instructional staff is where we have certain secretaries, supervisors, and master teachers. Our total there is $723,000. General administration is the Board of Education. That's the superintendent's office, which pays for salaries of the board, the superintendent, all those benefits. And then you can see a breakdown of cost for our legal services, which we estimate from year to year based on how much the lawyers bill us, audit fees, election fees, and also our liability insurance, travel, and our dues and memberships to either LOCA or Forethought. School admin is our principals and school secretaries. That's mainly salaries and benefits. We're estimating $3.3 million there. Business services, we have our staff and some travel, also banking and analysis fees. That's $526,000. Operations and maintenance, Mr. Dwayne has given me every year, as he does every year, a very detailed budget on what his plans are. So you can see that layout there on, he carries in his budget for a secretary, half of his salary, 20 custodians and their salary and benefits, and then a lot of various fees and services, which Mr. Nakia does help him with as far as keeping track of that. But Dwayne carries other fees to take care of the district. That's lawn care, which goes out for bid. There are 3 schools that are scheduled for soft wash this year. 3 on that schedule this year are Belrose Primary, Napoleonville Primary, and the Pierre-Port School. He also predicts other areas that we're going to have expenditures. You can see that list there. and then his materials and supplies. So his budget is 4.7 million. Ms. Dana also provides me a breakout, plus I help her with that. So she's mainly bus drivers and their salaries and benefits. The rest is bus leases, which is in that category 400. We have a new fleet at 767,000, and then the rest is fuel and cleaning supplies for the buses. Central services is human resources and technology together. You can see their salaries and then the breakout of the various fees of what it takes to run that department. That's 1.2 million. That function code 3100 on page 22 is for retiree insurance for food service workers, 156,000. Next page is for 4-H on page 23. And then a big ticket item which continues for us on page 24 is the facilities and grounds maintenance, or not just construction services, but these are major capital expenditures. Besides what we have going on, this is what Mr. Oquin has planned. Some of this may not take place or won't take place all at one time, but you can see what his plans are and what we've discussed in meetings past. Any of these that go when they're up for time to work on, they go out for bid and they come to you for your approval. But this is a snapshot of what he is looking at doing. So these should look familiar to you. They usually don't all take place at one time, but if they did, that would cost us 4.5 million. So that is the general fund. That's a lot to take in, I know. So I can take questions now or later. One thing I want to point out right away with all of those expenditures that I just pointed out, the facilities and construction services, that is capital expenditures. That's not part of your regular recurring operation. We almost look at that as a side item. If you would take those expenditures out, well, with those expenditures, we predict a deficit of 3.7 million. If you remove those expenditures, we would actually have a surplus of $765,000. So our budget is tight, but we do have a surplus, even with all of our, everything going on, reduced revenues, increased expenditures. We're still looking at, without those facilities and construction services, which are necessary, we would have a regular recurring operating budget of $765,000. The deficit would be 3.7 million. With that, we have enough in fund balance where we pay as we go. If we run a deficit, and the fund balance would pick that up, we would just dip into the reserve. We have several programs where we know our revenue streams, what they're going to be. So I included those special revenues in the back so you could look at those. Title I is starting out with 1 million. They will have a carryover. The Title I program is a major piece, a backbone of our early childhood program. That pays for 5 to 6 early childhood teachers and paraprofessionals, along with directors and supervisors. The Title II program is mainly for professional development, and right now that is, the revenue is estimated at $145,000. There will be carryover for that. The same with Idea Preschool. We're getting a preliminary allocation of $66,000. Idea B, which is a component of special ed, has a starting revenue of $800,000. The Head Start program, that budget is already approved and in place. That is 1.3 million. You all know a lot about the Head Start program and what that is for our district. Title IV has a starting revenue of 83,000. That program will also have carryover. Our school food service program, I go through this with Mr. Dewey, and I use last year's figures or our current figures and take averages and take the highest average of both revenues and expenditures. And his program is pretty much self-supporting. The last couple of years, he's, well, before Miss Woods left, she may have had almost $100,000 in the good. Last year, we ran about a $60,000 deficit, and this year, I predict that it's going to be about the same. So the budget is more or less self-sustaining. The HVAC revenue, which Mr. Oquan oversees, that comes from a component of sales taxes. For the revenues, I'm estimating those at 1.7 million. That pays for half of his salary and one of the HVAC technicians. And then just like the other facilities and maintenance capital expenditures, he provides a list of needs and plans of what he plans on doing. In that category 400 that you can see, there's about 6 projects that he plans on doing this year or would like to get to for a total of 2.7 million. Also, that special revenue fund pays for our electricity and natural gas. He is asking for a forklift that he will be shopping for $25,000. So the fund balance at the beginning of this year is still estimated at 8.5 million. If he were to spend all of that with all of those projects, the fund balance would go down to 6.6. So my point in that is, with the rate of spending that he's doing, which he really cannot spend all of this at one time, the HVAC fund still has a very generous fund balance and is holding its own. He can't get this work done fast enough. As soon as he spends it, that revenue still continues to build. The redesign program has revenue, an allocation to come in of 196,000. Idea 611 has a small set aside of 20,000, and then the Carl Perkins program has 36,000 that it has been allocated. The Stronger Connections grant we're finishing up. This was braided funding with the COPS grant for the security measures at the 3 Napoleonville sites of Assumption High, Napoleonville Primary, and Napoleonville Middle. This program helps to pay, we're finishing up with all the doors, locks, and the badge pass system. So those 2 grants were complementary to each other. So that is a very detailed look at our budget, proposed budget for 2025, 2026. We can have a short discussion now if y'all would like before I move on to the salary schedules. I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions.
The 100 kids that Mr. Dara was speaking of was from last year's. So those kids were from the 2024, 2025 school year up until our February 1 count. So what I'm saying is from February 1 until now, we've lost about 77 students. So that number is going to be factored in on October 1 count. So that's the difference. So we anticipating if our numbers, that's just exits, okay? If we don't get kids coming in, we're looking at about 77 kids less than what the 100 kids that he had mentioned, because that is from February 1 to October 1.
So in budgetary terms, what that means, or the concern would be again, in February of 2026, I would get a letter stating how much MFP we can expect for the upcoming year. And so if there's a decline in enrollment, there would be another reduction. Maybe not as much as the one I mentioned of 850,000, but nevertheless, we certainly wouldn't see an increase in MFP. So that is, we're counting kids every day. Every day, every month, and every year, by grade level, by, school site, class, everything.
I just want to say thank you to you, your team, for putting this budget together. Also, our department heads. I know we see a lot of supervisors and directors in the room. Thank you for taking the time to submit your budget into Mr. Darrow and making sure that we are spending our taxpayers' dollars accordingly, and we're not being wasteful at all. So thank you all for submitting your budgets in, and Mr. Darrow, thank you and your team for putting this budget together for us.
Thank you. So the proposed salary schedule for this coming year. As part of this, I should mention, with the regular budget, when we work on our budget for salaries and benefits, the budget that I just mentioned does include everyone's regularly scheduled pay step increase. So that is in the current salary schedule. The only changes that we're looking at right now for our salary schedule are highlighted in yellow. And that is on page 9. First of all, we are picking up, we will have a soccer program this year. So we have a high school head coach and assistant coach for boys and girls. That is the first addition of what we are putting in the salary schedule. Then if you turn to page 11, Ms. Brandy has been alerted that what we are required, mandated by LDOE to pay foreign associate teachers has increased. So we have changed that schedule years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There is a small increase in those amounts. Those are the only changes to the salary schedule that we have made. So our plan now would be, we would send this budget in the format that the paper needs, that the legislative auditor requires. We would send that for advertisement, and we will be back on July 16th for an approval. In the meantime, our office is open here for public comment, inspection of the budget. Also, I will have Mr. Nakien post this up. I think he's on vacation now, but I can get this to him tomorrow, and soon after that, there'll be a turnaround. It's actually a requirement when the budget is approved to post that on our website. I will post the proposed budget, and then it will just change to whatever the approved budget is.
Dr. B, I know I missed the last meeting, but there was a discussion of salary schedule last meeting. We got the documentation of the proposal from Lean Frog and the new schedule, but we haven't really heard anything past that. So I know this budget does not include any new proposed. It just includes our regular schedule with the step increases. Are we addressing that before we approve a budget for next year?
The conversations that we've had has been around the uncertainty of where we would be financially within the next few months. So as we continue to review that particular proposal, I'm making a recommendation. I would like to come back to the board at the next meeting to make a strong recommendation to still, while we work through a final proposal for a permanent pay raise, I definitely want to make sure that we give our employees something while we continue to work on it. I do not want to leave our employees without some type of additional funds, even though we're trying to work towards a permanent pay raise. And I know that there's a lot of volatility out there right now. I received something this morning that the federal government is proposing to cut our state by $6 million as far as our Medicaid. And also there's a lot of communications about lowering taxes and revenue deductions. So as we work through that, I think it's important that we can take either some money out of our fund balance or whatever we have left over from this current budget and give to our employees in the form of a stipend and nothing less than what they would normally get in a pay raise that we would give. So the next school board meeting, I would like to make a recommendation to the board, and hopefully the board and I can kind of get to a good place where we can agree on this is sufficient. And obviously, we would definitely lean heavily on Mr. Darrow's office to give us those numbers.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
G, receive May 2025 sales and use tax report.
Okay, May of 2025 sales tax report. Total returns processed were 2,131. Monthly returns, 1,239. Quarterly returns, 74. Irregular, 795. Semi-annual, 23. For a total of total number of online filers included, $1,924. Total receipts for May 2025 are $1,416,533, a decrease of $65,622 from last year at this time, which is a minus 4% decrease. Total collections less audits is negative 4.43%, and total collections less OMV and audits is minus 3%. The school board received $703,987, a decrease of $32,792 from the 92 bond issue fund. I'm sorry, this from the regular general fund. The 92 bond issue fund received $140,797, which was a decrease of $6,558 from this time at the previous year in May of 2024, which was a percentage change of minus 4%. Delinquent rate for the month of May 2025 is 8%. Industries that had an increase or decrease as compared to May of 2024. Increases experienced were in food, apparel, general merchandise, equipment, manufacturers, miscellaneous, and unclassified. Decreases were experienced in automotive, contracting, service, and utilities. Audit revenues, both for the month of May 2025 and compared to May 2024, are zero. Auto sales for the month of May 2025 were $293,569 compared to May of 2024 were $329,465, which is a minus 10.9% decrease. And there is your sales tax report for May of 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Darrow.
Thank you.
H, approve 2025-2026 student accident insurance renewal. I need a motion. Moved by Ms. Bowers, second by Mr. Abear. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 7, facilities and grounds. A, approve certificate of substantial completion for the project known as boiler relocation from Assumption High School to Labadie Middle School. I need a motion.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Lewis. Second by Mr. Washington. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 8, comments and announcements. Do we have any comments from board members and/or administration?
I have two. The early child, Miss Rachel's not here tonight, but the early childhood day this week went fantastic. She had a great turnout. Lots of public support services were there, community partners, all of our teachers and staff and early childhood staff and student volunteers and group volunteers were there. It was a great day. The kids had a great time. We participated as well, and we went and did some interviews, and I played LSU songs throughout the day for the baseball. But we had a blast, and I want to say thank you to Miss Rachel and our whole staff and everybody who was involved. It was great turnout. And then a couple of us attended Teacher Leader Summit with a lot of our staff in the parish. Ms. Bambi and I and Ms. Barris attended Teacher Leader Summit, which was amazing. It was a different perspective. We kind of learned some things that we didn't understand completely, and we got to talk to educators from around the state. We actually talked to some other board members that were in attendance from other parishes too, and we got a welcome reception. Anytime I made a comment in any of the sessions, they're like, "You're a board member?" And we got, "Oh, thank you so much for coming. I can't believe that you guys are here. Why would you be here?" kind of thing. So we really had a good time, and we learned, like I said, some different perspective, and got to kind of dive into things that lets us better understand and support you. So I appreciate being able to go there.
Anybody else? Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Moved by Mr. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.